Fans, brace yourselves. What was supposed to be just another week in the love and hip-hop universe has exploded into chaos, leaving everyone questioning loyalties, friendships, and the true intentions behind every smile. Rumors have been swirling for weeks, but nothing could have prepared the cast or the fans for what just came to light. Yandy, a name synonymous with loyalty and ambition, has allegedly crossed a line that no one saw coming. Reports have emerged of a secret meet between Yandy and Jasmine. A meeting shrouded in whispers, late-night texts, and clandestine encounters that have sent shockwaves through the entire love and hip-hop family. Emotions ran high, as insiders hinted that the conversation between Yandy and Jasmine wasn't innocent, sparking accusations of betrayal that are now threatening to tear friendships apart. Fans are shocked, scrolling through social media with wide eyes as screenshots, vague posts, and cryptic captions hint at a storyline far more dramatic than anyone could have predicted. The family was left divided, loyalties questioned, and trust hanging by a thread. Who could have anticipated that behind the cameras, alliances would shift so suddenly, and secrets so closely guarded would explode into the public eye? The tension is palpable, and you can almost feel the air thick with anticipation, waiting for the next explosive revelation. Everyone is asking the same question: what really happened in that secret meet? And as whispers grow louder, it becomes clear that this is more than just another reality TV twist. This is a betrayal that could redefine relationships, reputations, and the balance of power within the show. You won't want to miss a second of this unraveling drama, because what we're about to reveal might change everything you thought you knew about Yandy, Jasmine, and the world of love and hip-hop forever. The tension was palpable the moment Yandy walked into the dimly lit restaurant, her heels clicking against the polished floor, a subtle but unmistakable air of purpose surrounding her. Jasmine, already seated in a secluded corner, looked up, her eyes narrowing as a flicker of surprise crossed her face. "You're late," Jasmine said, her voice low but sharp, laced with suspicion that barely masked the underlying excitement. Yandy slid into the seat opposite her, the two women exchanging a silent appraisal that spoke volumes before any words were uttered. Fans watching from social media, having caught wind of cryptic posts and hints, were already speculating, but the reality of the situation was far more charged than anyone online could imagine. Yandy leaned back, letting a small smile curl at the edge of her lips. But there was tension in the set of her jaw, a subtle signal that whatever they were about to discuss was far from casual. The conversation began cautiously, with Jasmine probing gently. "So, this is really happening? You're serious about what we talked about?" Yandy's eyes flickered, betraying a mix of resolve and hesitation. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't," she replied, her voice steady but low, weighted with the kind of determination that immediately raised alarms in anyone who knew her. Across the city, the online world erupted with speculation as screenshots of Yandy's late-night text exchanges with Jasmine circulated, fans dissecting every word, every emoji, trying desperately to piece together a storyline that was still unfolding. Meanwhile, back in the restaurant, Yandy slid a small folder across the table, and Jasmine's eyes widened, the subtle gasp barely audible but enough to signal the gravity of what was contained within. It was as if the entire room had suddenly contracted around them, the hum of nearby conversations fading into irrelevance as they leaned in, each word exchanged loaded with significance. "You've really thought this through," Jasmine said, her tone a mixture of admiration and incredulity. Yandy nodded. "I have, and I can't do it alone. That's why I'm here." There was a pause, pregnant with the tension of unspoken truths, and Jasmine's fingers traced the edge of the folder, her nails tapping lightly against the polished surface, a nervous rhythm betraying the storm brewing beneath her composed exterior. Outside, the night pressed in, streetlights casting elongated shadows through the windows, a perfect cinematic backdrop for the kind of betrayal fans live for. Quiet, tense, and electric with unspoken agendas. The whispers among the waitstaff, the subtle glances exchanged between servers and onlookers, only added to the intensity, creating a small ecosystem of anticipation that mirrored the chaos about to unfold within the love and hip-hop universe. Meanwhile, Yandy's mind raced with strategies, weighing the risks, the potential fallout, the delicate balance between loyalty and ambition. Every decision here would ripple outward, touching friendships, alliances, and reputations in ways that could never be fully anticipated. Jasmine broke the silence, leaning closer. "Do you realize what this means, if it gets out?" Yandy's gaze hardened, unwavering. "I know exactly what it means, and I'm willing to face it." The air between them crackled with unspoken intensity, the kind of charged energy that made onlookers, or in this case, viewers, unable to tear their eyes away. Meanwhile, across the city, Fans were beginning to notice subtle clues on social media, posts that disappeared after minutes, cryptic replies and comment sections, stories that seemed innocuous but, in retrospect, screamed of something bigger. The digital chatter was relentless, with speculation about motivations, alliances, and potential betrayals growing by the minute. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and both women were acutely aware that every word, every gesture, was a step along a tightrope that could snap at any moment. Yandy opened the folder, revealing documents, photos, and messages that painted a picture more scandalous than anyone had dared imagine. Jasmine's lips parted in a silent gasp, her hand flying to cover her mouth as shock overtook her initial composure. This changes everything," she whispered, her voice trembling just enough to betray her inner turmoil. Yandy's eyes never wavered, her calm exterior masking the storm within. "It has too. There's no going back now." Outside, the city continued obliviously, but within that private corner, time seemed to stretch and bend, a space suspended between loyalty, secrecy, and the inevitable exposure that lurked just around the corner. Their conversation deepened, shifting from tentative probing to heated discussion as emotions ran high. Accusations surfacing in ways that left both women reeling. "You can't just throw everyone under the bus," Jasmine said. Voice sharp, the edge of panic creeping in despite her attempt to remain composed. Yandy leaned forward, eyes locking with hers. "And you think I want to? I'm doing what has to be done. If the family, the fans, the world, can't handle it, that's not my problem. I can't live in fear of their reaction." Outside, the whispers of betrayal spread like wildfire online, as fans pieced together timelines, messages, and sightings into a mosaic of scandal. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine's dialogue became a dance of strategy and secrecy. Each move calculated, each revelation designed to test boundaries and measure loyalty. "What about Rashida?" Jasmine asked, her voice dropping to a cautious murmur, as if speaking the name too loudly might summon consequences. Yandy's lips pressed into a thin line, her gaze darkening. "She's part of the problem. She's too caught up in appearances to see the truth, and the truth needs to come out, whether she likes it or not." A tense silence followed, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of clinking cutlery. Jasmine nodded slowly, her mind racing, understanding the gravity yet fearful of the backlash they might both face. "You're really willing to risk everything?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper, a tremor betraying her nervous anticipation. "Everything," Yandy confirmed, her eyes unwavering, determination etched into every feature of her face. Fans continued their fevered speculation online, dissecting every social media interaction, reading between every line of dialogue posted publicly, hungry for clues that would confirm or deny the scandal unfolding in real time. Meanwhile, the two women leaned closer, voices dropping into conspiratorial murmurs as they began to outline steps, contingencies, and plans that would inevitably send shockwaves through the love and hip-hop universe. "We need to be careful," Jasmine said, scanning the room, her paranoia beginning to mirror the tension in the air. One wrong move, one person overhearing Yandy cut her off sharply. "No mistakes. We do this smart, or it all falls apart, and we can't afford to let it fall apart." The intensity was suffocating, emotions raw and frayed, with every word spoken carrying the weight of potential disaster. Fans, meanwhile, began to speculate wildly, theories about secret alliances, hidden motives, and the potential for total family upheaval circulated across forums, Twitter threads, and Instagram stories. Every cryptic post, every subtle glance caught on camera was dissected, debated, and amplified by a hungry fan base that thrives on scandal. Yandy and Jasmine, seemingly oblivious to the digital storm brewing beyond the restaurant walls, focused entirely on the gravity of their secretive mission. Strategies were whispered, contingencies plotted, and with each revelation, the tension grew, a knot tightening in the air around them that promised an inevitable, explosive fallout. By the time they left, slipping quietly into the night, the mood outside seemed mundane, normal, but the world they walked back into was anything but. Fans were already buzzing, speculation reaching fever pitch, and the ripple effect of their secret meet had begun. And somewhere in the mix, Rashida's absence loomed large, her obliviousness contrasted sharply against the scheming, plotting energy of Yandy and Jasmine, setting the stage for betrayals, confrontations, and the kind of reality TV chaos that leaves viewers glued to every update, screenshot, and leaked post, desperate to witness the unfolding drama that promised to shake alliances, break hearts, and ignite a storm of accusations, tears, and shocking revelations that no one, Not even the most seasoned love and hip-hop fan could have fully anticipated. The fallout from that clandestine meeting between Yandy and Jasmine was immediate. Though invisible at first, like a storm gathering strength just beyond the horizon. Word traveled slowly, whispers shared between cast members during rehearsals, and subtle social media hints that hinted at a rupture too significant to ignore. Rashida, meanwhile, remained unaware, blissfully confident in her perception of loyalty and trust, yet the air around her thickened with tension she couldn't yet identify. Friends began noticing her distracted demeanor, the fleeting frustration in her eyes when someone mentioned Yandy or Jasmine casually, oblivious that the very names she trusted were now central to a secret that could fracture everything she had worked to hold together. Fans, who had been obsessively analyzing every post, comment, and story, were already theorizing about potential betrayals. Some insisted Yandy had always harbored hidden motives, while others maintained Jasmine was the true instigator, a master manipulator lurking behind a friendly smile. Back in the private corridors of the show's filming locations, the conversation escalated. One producer, who had been privy to insider chatter, whispered nervously, "If Rashida finds out what they've been planning, it's going to explode on camera." Emotions are high, and no one can predict the fallout. Meanwhile, Yandy, aware of the delicate balance she was playing with, made calculated moves to ensure no one suspected the extent of the information she now held. Every interaction was measured, every glance loaded with subtle messaging, and every word carefully chosen to avoid raising suspicion while keeping Jasmine close enough to reinforce their alliance. The stakes were monumental: reputations, alliances, and personal relationships hung in the balance. And one misstep could trigger a cascade of emotional upheaval that would reverberate through the entire love and hip-hop ecosystem. In private conversations, Jasmine expressed unease, her voice tinged with both excitement and fear. "Do you think Rashida suspects anything?" she asked, sipping nervously on her drink, hands shaking slightly. Yandy leaned in, eyes focused and sharp. "She's smart, but she's distracted. She won't see this coming until it's too late. Trust me." The tension was a delicate dance, each of them testing the limits of secrecy, knowing that the smallest slip could unravel the carefully woven web they were building. Yet, even as they plotted, outside forces, friends, family, and fans began to sense shifts in behavior. Social media became a pressure cooker. Posts that were once innocuous suddenly analyzed for hidden meanings, reactions dissected for signs of internal conflict. The narrative began to take on a life of its own, with speculation feeding speculation, creating a volatile atmosphere that mirrored the storm brewing within the show's inner circle. Rashida, in her own world, maintained a veneer of composure. Yet the subtle changes in Yandy's behavior were beginning to prick at her subconscious. A glance held too long, a slight hesitation in conversation, the sudden defensiveness when certain topics arose. Of these were small clues that something had shifted beneath the surface, something she had yet to fully understand. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine continued to solidify their plans, meeting in secluded locations, exchanging messages that grew increasingly bold in their secrecy. Each meeting carried heightened emotion, whispers of betrayal, moments of frustration, bursts of laughter tinged with nervous energy, and the unspoken acknowledgement that once their plans were revealed, nothing would ever be the same. Fans continued their relentless scrutiny, dissecting every new snippet of information for hidden meaning. The tension spread beyond the cast, reaching into the wider fan base, each post sparking debates, predictions, and the occasional heated argument in comment sections. "Yandy can't be trusted," one fan commented, while another countered, "Jasmine is clearly orchestrating this." Watch the drama unfold. Inside the show, the environment grew increasingly volatile. Crew members noticed the undercurrent of tension, noting the subtle shifts in alliances, the way conversations became layered with subtext, and how smiles sometimes masked frustration or fear. Yandy, conscious of the optics, carefully managed her public interactions while orchestrating private maneuvers that would guarantee maximum impact when the truth inevitably emerged. One evening, as the city lights glimmered outside a apartment where Yandy and Jasmine convened, emotions spilled over into a heated exchange. "We can't hesitate anymore," Jasmine urged, her voice tight with urgency. "Every day we wait, Rashida gets stronger, and the risk of exposure increases." Yandy's eyes flashed, her tone measured but fierce. "I know. That's why we moved tonight. If we play it right, it's flawless. If we hesitate, we fail and there's no second chance." The gravity of their words hung in the air like a storm about to break. each syllable resonating with the weight of potential catastrophe. Back in her own world, Rashida experienced a creeping unease she could not articulate, the subtle inconsistencies in communication, the half-answers, the sudden silences all coalesced into a gnawing suspicion that something was amiss. Her instincts, honed over years of navigating complex relationships and public scrutiny, told her that a pivotal shift had occurred, even if she could not yet pinpoint its source. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine orchestrated a series of moves that would ensure maximum disruption while maintaining plausible deniability. Messages were carefully timed, posts crafted with precision, and meetings scheduled in ways that minimized the chance of discovery. The tension was electric, the stakes higher than ever, as they navigated a delicate balance between secrecy and exposure. As fans speculated, debated, and theorized online, the stage was being set for a confrontation that would captivate the entire love and hip-hop audience. The subtle shifts in alliances, the undercurrent of tension, and the strategic maneuvers all coalesced into a narrative rich with potential for explosive drama. Even casual viewers, previously disengaged, found themselves drawn into the web of intrigue, eagerly awaiting the inevitable revelation that promised to redefine relationships, reputations, and loyalties. In a final, tense moment before their coordinated plan was set into motion, Yandy and Jasmine exchanged a glance that conveyed everything words could not: determination, anxiety, anticipation, and the unspoken acknowledgement that once this began, there would be no turning back. And with that silent agreement, they parted ways, each stepping into the night carrying the weight of secrets, strategies, and the knowledge that the next few days would reshape everything fans thought they knew about loyalty, friendship, and betrayal within the love and hip-hop universe. From that point on, every glance, every comment, and every post carried double meaning, each one a piece of a puzzle designed to captivate viewers, spark debates, and escalate tensions to heights that would leave even the most seasoned fans gasping for the next update. The delicate web had been woven, the pieces in place, and the stage was set for a series of confrontations, revelations, and dramatic moments that would define an era of betrayal, strategy, and emotional upheaval, promising fans a narrative full of twists, heartbreaks, and jaw-dropping surprises that would leave no relationship untouched and no heart unshaken. The tension escalated further as the first hints of the secret meet began to surface among the cast, subtle enough to evade Rashida's notice but glaring to those attuned to shifting alliances. Rumors began circulating quietly on set, a hushed whisper here, a knowing glance there, and suddenly everyone was watching, analyzing, and predicting. The energy became almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves were aware of the brewing storm. Yandy maintained a careful balance, her interactions with Rashida superficially warm, her words laced with just enough familiarity to deflect suspicion. Yet every private conversation with Jasmine strengthened their clandestine bond and fueled their strategic maneuvers. "We're on the edge," Jasmine said during one late-night discussion, her voice tense. One wrong word, and everything unravels. Yandy's expression hardened, a flicker of steely determination passing through her eyes. "That's why we control the narrative. We let the pieces fall exactly where we want them." Meanwhile, the emotional toll began to manifest in the subtleties of cast dynamics. Rashida's friends noticed her restlessness, the small signs of doubt that grew increasingly visible, a furrowed brow, a hesitation in speech, the occasional sharp remark that betrayed irritation and confusion. She hadn't yet uncovered the depth of the betrayal, but the shift in energy around her was undeniable. The producers and crew, well aware of the simmering tensions, began to prepare for the inevitable fallout. They knew that cameras would capture every reaction, every gasp, every tear, and the drama would be magnified 1,000-fold in editing. Fans, as always, were watching too, dissecting every clip, every post, every caption for hidden meaning. The online conversation intensified, speculation escalating with each passing hour. As followers debated motives, predicted confrontations, and crafted elaborate theories about what might happen next, Yandy and Jasmine's alliance became a masterclass in subtle manipulation. Every smile, every joke, every casual conversation was a calculated step designed to maintain their cover while subtly steering events in their favor. Each interaction with other cast members was scrutinized, ensuring no accidental disclosure could occur, yet always leaving enough ambiguity to keep curiosity and tension alive. The emotional stakes were monumental. Rashida, still unaware, began to sense an invisible pressure pressing down, an intangible tension that made familiar relationships feel fragile, every conversation a potential minefield. Friends offered cryptic advice, cautioning her to trust her instincts, yet she struggled to decipher the truth from paranoia. As the narrative developed, small confrontations began to emerge, seemingly minor but loaded with subtext. A casual remark by Yandy sparked an argument that left viewers guessing. Social media buzzing with theories, and the cast wondering whether tempers were flaring naturally or by design. Why would she say that? Rashida demanded in a private moment, her frustration clear. It doesn't make sense. Her friends exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how much to reveal, fearing their own allegiances might be tested if they disclosed too much. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine executed a series of carefully timed reveals and strategic leaks, ensuring that when the ultimate confrontation arrived, it would land with maximum impact. Every move was precise, every word weighted with potential consequence, and the emotional intensity of their actions set the stage for dramatic confrontations that would leave no heart untouched. The tension reached new heights during a group gathering. When the first subtle cracks in Rashida's perception became apparent, Yandy's casual glances, Jasmine's carefully timed interruptions, and the subtextual dialogue between the two planted seeds of doubt that began to take root. Rashida, sensing the shift, felt a swell of anxiety, her instincts warning her that alliances had shifted and loyalty was no longer guaranteed. The fans watching online were captivated, dissecting every frame for hidden meaning, every expression for emotional clues, and every interaction for evidence of betrayal. Comments flooded in, theories multiplying like wildfire. Some were sure Yandy had orchestrated a masterful deception, while others argued Jasmine had been the puppeteer all along. The emotional tension spilled over into private discussions as well. Cast members whispered in corners, speculated in hushed tones, and anxiously awaited moments that might confirm their suspicions. Every subtle gesture, every glance, and every half-smile became a potential signal, amplifying the intensity of the narrative. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine moved with increasing boldness, their plan advancing on multiple fronts. Secret texts, covert meetings, and subtle manipulations ensured that when the moment of exposure arrived, it would be explosive and leave a permanent mark on relationships and reputations. The drama continued to ripple outward, touching friends, family, and fans alike. Discussions on social media forums grew heated, theories became more elaborate, and every minor revelation was dissected as evidence of a larger, more sinister plot. The stakes were now higher than ever, and the air was thick with anticipation as everyone waited for the confrontation that would redefine friendships, alliances, and trust within the love and hip-hop universe. In private moments, Yandy reminded herself of the necessity of her actions. "We're doing what has to be done," she murmured to Jasmine during a late-night strategy session. "It's messy, but it's the only way to uncover the truth and shift the balance. If we falter, everything collapses." Jasmine nodded, her own nerves tempered by excitement and the thrill of the unfolding drama. "Every step counts," she said. "One misstep and it all blows up, but done right, it's unstoppable." As the hours passed, the tension grew almost unbearable. Rashida, now more aware of subtle shifts in behavior, began piecing together inconsistencies that pointed toward betrayal. Her heart raced with anxiety, yet she remained cautious, unwilling to confront what she sensed until she could be sure. The stage was set for confrontations, confessions, and explosive revelations that would captivate viewers and leave the cast forever changed. Fans, glued to every update, eagerly awaited the moment when hidden truths would finally emerge, knowing that the payoff promised tears, anger, and jaw-dropping moments that would dominate discussions for weeks. The delicate balance between secrecy and exposure became the defining tension of the unfolding saga. Every calculated move by Yandy and Jasmine increased the suspense, drawing viewers deeper into the intricate web of manipulation, loyalty, and emotional upheaval. And as Rashida's intuition sharpened, the inevitable confrontation drew closer, promising a cascade of drama, heartbreak, and shocking revelations that would leave no relationship untouched, no alliance untested, and no fan indifferent. The night had grown darker, and with it, the tension surrounding Yandy and Jasmine's secret maneuvers seemed to thicken, pressing against every conversation, every glance, and every interaction within the love and hip-hop universe. The weight of anticipation was almost tangible as the two women executed the next phase of their plan, fully aware that every step they took could ignite emotional firestorms. Rashida, meanwhile, was beginning to feel the first real cracks of unease, a subtle but persistent gnawing in her mind that something fundamental had shifted. Her instincts, honed from years navigating public scrutiny and personal betrayal, screamed at her that a hidden agenda was at play, but the details were still shrouded in secrecy, frustratingly out of reach. On the set, cast members noticed the invisible tension, glancing at one another with a mix of curiosity and caution, sensing that relationships were on the verge of rupture. "Something's off," one whispered quietly to another. "I can feel it. I don't know what it is, but it's big." Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine convened once more in a private, dimly lit location, their voices low, but each syllable loaded with strategic weight. "We're getting closer," Jasmine said, eyes scanning the room as though anticipating an intruder at any moment. "She's starting to notice the shifts. If we push too hard, she'll suspect everything." Yandy's expression remained controlled, yet her eyes glimmered with determination. "That's why timing is everything. Every word, every move has to be precise. One wrong step, and all of this collapses." The meticulous planning underscored the gravity of their actions, each decision a delicate balance between secrecy and exposure, manipulation and truth. Fans online were simultaneously riveted and speculative, analyzing cryptic posts, fleeting smiles, and seemingly casual comments for signs of hidden motives. Social media became a crucible of speculation, theories multiplying with each passing hour as fans debated loyalty, deception, and the intricate web of alliances that had begun to dominate the narrative. Rashida, sensing the undercurrent of duplicity, started to observe more keenly, noting subtle behavioral shifts from Yandy, changes in Jasmine's body language, and the subtle evasions of mutual friends who seemed caught in the crossfire. Anxiety gnawed at her, but she masked it behind a composed exterior, unwilling to let suspicion manifest in confrontation until she had concrete proof. Yet the pressure mounted relentlessly. The delicate web woven by Yandy and Jasmine was carefully designed to expose truths gradually, to orchestrate conflict in a way that maximized emotional and dramatic impact. Every seemingly minor interaction, every well-timed comment, was a calculated step toward a crescendo of revelation that promised to leave the entire cast and the viewer stunned. In one particularly intense moment, Yandy and Jasmine reviewed their strategy in hushed tones, their dialogue charged with urgency and anticipation. "If she finds out before we're ready, it could ruin everything," Jasmine whispered, eyes wide with concern. Yandy leaned closer, her voice steady but firm. "She won't. We control the narrative. Every move is ours to make, and we won't falter." Outside, the city carried on, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing in private corners and behind closed doors. Yet within the orbit of the love and hip-hop family, the ripple effects were already spreading. Friends began to sense subtle shifts, casual interactions loaded with subtext, and a new tension that made even familiar environments feel unpredictable. Social media exploded with speculation, fans dissecting every interaction, theorizing about secret alliances, potential betrayals, and the inevitable confrontation that loomed on the horizon. Meanwhile, Rashida's awareness sharpened. She began piecing together inconsistencies, reading between lines, and analyzing subtle gestures that suggested a hidden agenda. The realization that someone she trusted might be orchestrating a complex web of deception sent a chill through her, heightening the emotional stakes and intensifying the internal turmoil she struggled to contain. Yandy and Jasmine, sensing the shift, accelerated their maneuvers. Covert meetings, discreet messages, and careful manipulation ensured that the eventual exposure would be dramatic, undeniable, and irreversible. Each interaction was a calculated step, designed to provoke suspicion without revealing intent, to manipulate perception without being detected, and to set the stage for an explosive revelation. Tension escalated further when a minor confrontation on set sparked a chain reaction. A casual comment from Yandy, interpreted through the lens of suspicion, ignited a heated exchange that left cast members flustered and viewers riveted. Social media erupted, fans debating motives, dissecting emotions, and predicting fallout, the conversation growing more intense with each post, story, and comment. Private conversations among cast members became charged with subtext. Friends whispered in corners, gauging loyalties, anticipating responses, and speculating about the motivations driving the increasingly erratic behaviors. The atmosphere became almost electric with anticipation, as if everyone sensed the inevitability of confrontation, each interaction a precursor to the drama about to unfold. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine prepared for the final stages of their strategic maneuvering. Every text, every meeting, every subtle hint was orchestrated to maintain tension, provoke suspicion, and ensure that when the moment of revelation arrived, the impact would be catastrophic. The stakes were monumental: reputations, relationships, and alliances all hung in delicate balance, and one misstep could unravel months of careful planning. Fans, glued to every update, engaged in non-stop speculation, theorizing about potential outcomes, alliances, and betrayals. Every minor inconsistency in public behavior was scrutinized, each social media post dissected for hidden meaning, and every interaction analyzed for clues, creating a digital echo chamber that amplified tension and heightened anticipation. In private, Yandy and Jasmine shared a moment of mutual acknowledgement, understanding the gravity of their choices. "We've set the stage," Yandy said quietly. "Now we wait. The rest unfolds on its own." Jasmine nodded, the thrill of anticipation mingling with a hint of fear. "One slip and it all comes crashing down," she murmured. And as the night deepened, the city asleep outside, the emotional storm within the love and hip-hop universe intensified, the intricate web of secrecy, manipulation, and anticipation drawing every participant, every fan, and every observer into a vortex of suspense, setting the stage for confrontations, revelations, and dramatic fallout that promised to redefine loyalties, test friendships, and leave a permanent mark on everyone involved. With each passing hour, the countdown to exposure drew closer, and the narrative, so carefully constructed, was poised to explode in a cascade of emotional upheaval, shocking twists, and dramatic confessions that would captivate viewers and leave no relationship untouched. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted into a storm of emotions that no one could ignore, as every interaction, every glance, every whispered word became a potential catalyst for chaos. Yandy, fully aware of the high stakes, moved with a precision that was almost surgical, orchestrating each encounter, each conversation, each social media post with meticulous care, ensuring that the momentum of secrecy and anticipation continued to build without ever allowing for detection. Jasmine, equally invested and increasingly audacious, matched Yandy's strategy with her own brand of subtle manipulation, planting ideas, steering discussions, and carefully nudging the perceptions of those around them to reinforce the narrative they were constructing. The subtle tension became almost suffocating on set. The air felt heavy with unsaid words, with the weight of secrets too volatile to remain contained. Rashida, though attempting to maintain composure, began to sense the cracks forming in her world, feeling the pull of something she couldn't yet identify, a subtle dissonance in the behavior of those she trusted most. Friends and family, attuned to the nuances of these interactions, began to pick up on the understated signals, the lingering eye contact, the slight hesitations in speech, the sudden defensiveness that seemed out of character. The atmosphere grew electric with suspicion and anticipation, as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for the inevitable collapse of facades and the exposure of hidden truths. The digital realm mirrored this tension, fans dissecting every minute detail of social media activity, every fleeting expression caught on camera, building theories that sprawled across forums, threads, and comment sections with the intensity of wildfire. Each new post, each subtle story, each interaction was analyzed, interpreted, and debated, magnifying the drama, expanding the reach of the unfolding narrative, and creating a feedback loop of speculation and excitement that only fueled the anticipation further. Yandy and Jasmine, fully aware of the impact their coordinated maneuvers were having, capitalized on this digital frenzy, strategically releasing information in ways that controlled the pace and direction of speculation, ensuring that curiosity and suspense remained at a fever pitch. Their collaboration was a masterclass in manipulation and anticipation. Every smile, every gesture, every word served multiple purposes, simultaneously concealing, revealing, and steering perceptions in a careful dance of secrecy and revelation. As they moved through social settings, whether on set, at private gatherings, or in public spaces, the tension manifested in subtle exchanges, raised eyebrows, fleeting smirks, quick glances, and carefully timed remarks, all designed to maintain intrigue, provoke suspicion, and deepen the sense of uncertainty that enveloped everyone around them. Rashida, increasingly attuned to these shifts, felt a growing pressure within herself, an instinctive realization that the foundation of trust she had relied upon was eroding, that alliances were shifting beneath her feet, and that the consequences of these shifts would be monumental. The emotional stakes escalated with each passing hour, creating a climate in which every relationship, every loyalty, and every decision was scrutinized and questioned. Yandy and Jasmine capitalized on this environment, leveraging doubt and suspicion to consolidate their position. carefully manipulating the perceptions of key individuals to ensure that the eventual revelation would land with maximum impact. The web of secrecy and intrigue extended beyond the immediate circle, touching friends, family, and fans alike, who became unwitting participants in a narrative rich with tension, betrayal, and strategic maneuvering. Social media became a battleground of theory, conjecture, and speculation, with followers dissecting every interaction for hidden meaning, debating loyalties, and crafting intricate narratives about the unfolding drama. The emotional undercurrents on set intensified, as cast members navigated conversations heavy with subtext, unsure which interactions were genuine and which were calculated moves within a larger scheme of deception. The tension reached critical mass during a high-stakes event, where the carefully orchestrated dynamics of secrecy, suspicion, and manipulation converged in a series of interactions charged with dramatic weight. Every glance, every gesture, and every carefully constructed comment contributed to an escalating narrative that left viewers captivated and cast members on edge. Yandy and Jasmine, fully cognizant of the magnitude of their actions, maneuvered with increasing sophistication, anticipating reactions, predicting responses, and carefully steering conversations to maintain control of the unfolding scenario. The culmination of their efforts created a crescendo of emotional intensity, where the interplay of loyalty, betrayal, ambition, and fear reached a point of near unbearable tension. Rashida, sensing the impending climax, grappled with a mix of anxiety, suspicion, and determination, aware that the moment of revelation was drawing ever closer and that the consequences would be far-reaching and irreversible. The narrative, carefully constructed and meticulously maintained, continued to unfold with escalating drama, each interaction layering new complexity, heightening stakes, and deepening the sense of anticipation. Fans, drawn into the intricate web of secrets and manipulations, remained riveted, consuming every detail, dissecting every post, and debating the motivations and loyalties of each individual involved. The emotional intensity reached a fever pitch as the carefully orchestrated series of events neared their apex, promising confrontations, confessions, and revelations that would leave lasting impacts on every relationship, every alliance, and every perception within the love and hip-hop universe. As the orchestrators of the drama, Yandy and Jasmine's control over the narrative remained absolute. Their meticulous planning, strategic execution, and nuanced manipulations ensured that the ultimate exposure would deliver maximum shock, emotional devastation, and dramatic satisfaction for the viewers and the digital audience following every development. The moment of truth, long anticipated and carefully orchestrated, loomed on the horizon, a convergence of secrecy, suspicion, and strategy that would redefine friendships, test loyalties, and forever alter the dynamics of trust, ambition, and influence within the intricate social ecosystem they had been shaping. And in the quiet moments between orchestrated interactions, as the world continued to spin outside the microcosm of their drama, Yandy and Jasmine shared brief knowing glances, a silent acknowledgement that the storm they had set in motion was unstoppable, that the cascade of emotional upheaval, betrayal, and revelation was inevitable, and that when the dust settled, nothing would remain the same, leaving fans, friends, and foes alike reeling from the intensity of a narrative defined by manipulation, suspense, and unrelenting drama, where every relationship, every secret, and every calculated move would be scrutinized, dissected, and remembered as part of a saga that would captivate audiences long after the cameras stopped rolling. A story of ambition, cunning, and the raw power of secrecy that would echo through the love and hip-hop universe, leaving no heart untouched, no alliance untested, and no fan indifferent to the unfolding spectacle of betrayal, strategy, and emotional upheaval that had been masterfully orchestrated from the shadows and now blazed into the spotlight with an intensity that could not be ignored. The storm that Yandy and Jasmine had meticulously cultivated reached new, almost unbearable levels of intensity as their schemes began to ripple outward, touching every corner of the love and hip-hop universe, infiltrating conversations, friendships, and social interactions with an invisible yet palpable force. Each calculated gesture, each measured smile, and every seemingly casual comment carried layers of subtext, shaping perception and driving the narrative in ways that were invisible to anyone not acutely aware of the unfolding strategy. Rashida, increasingly unsettled, found herself caught in a web of uncertainty, her instincts screaming warnings that she could not yet fully articulate, leaving her oscillating between trust and suspicion as she navigated interactions that now seemed riddled with double meanings. Yandy's mastery of manipulation became even more apparent as she orchestrated interactions that appeared innocent, but were laden with the potential to ignite conflict. testing the limits of loyalty and emotional resilience among everyone around her. Jasmine's role in the unfolding drama was equally crucial, her subtle guidance, strategic input, and careful timing ensuring that each step amplified tension without revealing the true extent of their alliance. The emotional landscape became a battlefield, each conversation a potential skirmish, each glance a coded message, and each social interaction a minefield of implications, where even the slightest misstep could trigger cascading revelations. On set, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation, and every cast member became hyper-aware of nuances that might indicate allegiance or betrayal. Friends began whispering, exchanging worried glances, and questioning what they thought they knew about relationships, trust, and intention. Fans, fueled by curiosity and the constant stream of social media content, dissected each moment, creating sprawling theories and dissecting interactions for hidden meaning, the digital space becoming an extension of the emotional tension that had been cultivated in private. In private meetings, Yandy and Jasmine strategized with an almost obsessive precision, refining tactics, anticipating responses, and preparing contingencies for every conceivable scenario. Each message sent, each secret meeting held, and each controlled disclosure was a calculated maneuver designed to maximize suspense and ensure that when the inevitable confrontation came, it would be explosive, emotionally charged, and unforgettable. The emotional stakes for Rashida escalated relentlessly, her mind running in loops as she tried to piece together inconsistencies, small gestures, and fleeting expressions that hinted at hidden machinations, all while maintaining a veneer of composure that masked the storm brewing within her. The pressures of secrecy and suspicion seeped into everyday interactions, coloring conversations with tension, transforming even mundane exchanges into moments heavy with subtext, suspicion, and potential revelation. Social media amplified every nuance, with fans interpreting expressions, timing, and phrasing as signs of loyalty, deceit, or strategic manipulation, their collective anticipation adding an invisible weight to the already charged atmosphere. Each subtle interaction orchestrated by Yandy and Jasmine became a carefully planted thread in a tapestry of suspense, weaving together multiple layers of tension that extended far beyond immediate relationships, influencing perceptions, alliances, and the emotional responses of all involved. In private moments, Yandy reflected on the enormity of their undertaking, the thrill of controlling the narrative mingling with the pressure of sustaining secrecy and managing the complex interplay of trust, loyalty, and suspicion. Jasmine, equally consumed, navigated her own mix of excitement and apprehension, aware that one misstep could unravel the delicate equilibrium they had constructed, but driven by the anticipation of the dramatic payoff that loomed ever closer. The subtle games of manipulation extended into casual settings, where each interaction was an exercise in psychological strategy. Smiles masked intentions, offhand comments carried hidden meanings, and every gesture was calculated to provoke suspicion, curiosity, or emotional response. Rashida, increasingly aware of the shifting dynamics, began testing reactions, probing for inconsistencies, and attempting to discern patterns in the behaviors of those around her, her anxiety mounting as she sensed that a decisive revelation was imminent. Meanwhile, Yandy and Jasmine continued to refine their approach, leveraging social media, private messaging, and controlled encounters to manipulate perceptions, deepen suspense, and orchestrate the perfect moment of exposure. The emotional tension escalated to the point where every encounter, no matter how brief, felt laden with potential significance, each exchange a potential trigger for revelation, confrontation, or upheaval. Fans and followers became active participants in the drama, their theories, commentary, and speculations amplifying the impact of every maneuver, creating a feedback loop in which online discussion and in-person tension reinforced one another, magnifying the stakes and heightening anticipation. The environment became a high-stakes chessboard, where every move was calculated, every expression scrutinized, and every interaction a deliberate step toward the culmination of a drama that promised to redefine relationships, challenge loyalties, and ignite emotional firestorms that would leave no participant unaffected. Private discussions between Yandy and Jasmine grew more intense, each strategy session layered with contingency plans, psychological insight, and tactical adjustments, their shared focus on timing, presentation, and perception ensuring that when the moment of confrontation arrived, it would achieve maximum impact. Rashida's inner turmoil became increasingly difficult to contain, her mind racing through possibilities, assessing risks, and anticipating outcomes, each realization adding weight to the emotional pressure that threatened to overwhelm her composure. The interplay of secrecy, manipulation, and anticipation transformed ordinary interactions into moments of intense scrutiny, suspense, and psychological complexity, where every choice had potential consequences and every revelation carried the power to upend carefully constructed perceptions. Social media continued to act as a magnifying lens, with fans dissecting every interaction, generating complex theories, and sharing interpretations that fueled speculation, increased engagement, and further intensified the emotional stakes of the unfolding saga. The tension reached near unbearable levels as Yandy and Jasmine executed the final layers of their strategy, setting in motion the conditions for confrontation, revelation, and dramatic fallout. Every whispered word, every calculated gesture, and every controlled interaction contributed to a crescendo of suspense that enveloped Rashida, cast members, and fans alike, preparing the stage for moments of emotional intensity that would redefine relationships and loyalties within the love and hip-hop universe. The orchestration of suspense, secrecy, and psychological manipulation achieved a level of intricacy that left no detail unconsidered. Every potential reaction anticipated, and every contingency planned. As the narrative moved inexorably toward its climax, Rashida's awareness sharpened to a knife edge, the anticipation, fear, and emotional complexity intertwining in a way that heightened every encounter, amplified every glance, and intensified the suspense that now permeated every aspect of her world. The combined weight of expectation, betrayal, and strategic manipulation created an almost tangible pressure, pressing on relationships, perceptions, and the collective consciousness of those involved. Yandy and Jasmine's plan, honed through careful observation and meticulous execution, was poised to unleash a series of revelations, confrontations, and emotional upheavals that would captivate audiences, dominate social media discussions, and leave lasting impressions on every participant. The calculated progression of events ensured that when the moment of exposure arrived, it would be unstoppable, leaving a trail of emotional devastation, fractured trust, and dramatic consequences that would resonate through every corner of the love and hip-hop universe. And as the hours ticked closer to that inevitable moment, the delicate balance of secrecy, anticipation, and psychological tension created an environment so charged, so intricately layered, that every interaction, every observation, and every reaction became an integral part of a narrative that promised to be as unforgettable as it was explosive, marking a turning point in the saga of betrayal, strategy, and emotional intensity that Yandy and Jasmine had so masterfully engineered. A story where no relationship remained untouched, no loyalty unquestioned, and no heart unshaken, leaving fans, cast, and friends alike suspended on the edge of revelation, unable to look away from the unfolding drama that would redefine everything they thought they knew. The simmering storm between Yandy, Jasmine, and Rashida reached levels of intensity that seemed almost tangible, infiltrating every interaction, every glance, every whispered word with a tension so thick it could be felt across the set, across private gatherings, and even through the screens of fans watching from home. Yandy, fully aware of the magnitude of her actions, orchestrated every move with precision, every conversation, every casual remark, every social media post calibrated to maintain suspense, manipulate perception, and control the flow of information, ensuring that the drama continued to escalate without ever revealing the full scope of her alliance with Jasmine. Jasmine, equally meticulous, matched Yandy's strategy, step for step, carefully planting suggestions, guiding conversations, and subtly shifting perceptions to reinforce their narrative while keeping Rashida and anyone loyal to her blinded to the orchestration behind the scenes. Rashida, caught between intuition and uncertainty, felt the mounting pressure of subtle betrayals, inconsistencies, and unexplained behaviors that gnawed at her sense of trust. Her friends noticed the change, the way her eyes darted with suspicion, how her voice carried a hint of tension, how casual interactions seemed suddenly charged with meaning, and while they wanted to warn her, the labyrinth of secrecy made revealing anything a risk of its own. The atmosphere became charged with an almost unbearable tension, where ordinary interactions carried extraordinary weight, and every gesture, glance, and phrase became a potential pivot point for confrontation or revelation. Fans online, sensing the charged environment, dissected each clip, each story, each post with obsessive attention, crafting intricate theories and debates that spanned hours, days, and entire forums, turning the digital sphere into a parallel stage where speculation, anticipation, and curiosity amplified the drama to near mythical proportions. The emotional stakes were heightened by private confrontations, whispered rumors, and strategically timed encounters that gradually nudged Rashida closer to suspicion without ever allowing her to pinpoint the orchestrators behind the growing chaos. Yandy and Jasmine, fully aware of the precarious balance they maintained, calculated every move, anticipating reactions, testing responses, and planting subtle hints designed to provoke tension, curiosity, and eventual confrontation. Every interaction, whether on set, in private meetings, or across social media, became a chess move, calculated, deliberate, and weighted with potential consequences that could trigger cascading revelations. Rashida's awareness sharpened with each passing day, the subtle contradictions, the fleeting expressions, the half-smiles that didn't reach the eyes of it formed a pattern that her instincts recognized even as she struggled to assemble the pieces into a coherent picture. Cast members began to respond to the shifting dynamics, some anxious, some cautious, others opportunistic, all navigating the complex web of secrecy and alliances with care. Knowing that one wrong reaction could ignite an emotional explosion, the interplay of loyalty, suspicion, and manipulation created a heightened psychological environment, where trust was scarce, every decision laden with consequence, and the emotional temperature continuously rising. Yandy and Jasmine leveraged this environment masterfully, their synchronized moves subtly directing attention, amplifying uncertainty, and ensuring that the eventual moment of exposure would arrive with maximum impact, shattering perceptions and leaving a trail of emotional upheaval in its wake. Social media functioned as an accelerant, every comment, every reaction, and every speculation magnifying the stakes, feeding back into the narrative, and making each day a step closer to an inevitable and explosive climax. Rashida, despite her composure, felt the increasing pressure in private and public interactions, her mind racing through potential motives, betrayals, and strategies, weighing possibilities and testing reactions in an effort to understand the complex forces arrayed against her. The meticulous planning by Yandy and Jasmine ensured that each interaction maintained tension, manipulated perception, and nudged Rashida toward an emotional and psychological tipping point, setting the stage for dramatic confrontations that would be unforgettable. As the hours passed, private conversations among the cast became charged with subtext, hints of allegiance and suspicion manifesting in every exchange, while fans dissected every visible and invisible clue with obsessive fervor, contributing to an environment where speculation became almost as influential as the actions themselves. The emotional landscape was further complicated by moments of vulnerability, unexpected expressions of trust, and subtle displays of loyalty that served as counterpoints to the ongoing manipulation, creating a rich, layered tapestry of psychological tension, anticipation, and emotional investment that made every subsequent interaction more potent. Yandy and Jasmine's strategic brilliance lay in their ability to orchestrate these dynamics with such precision that even those closest to the center of the storm remained uncertain of the full scope of their plans, perpetually on edge and unable to anticipate the next move. Rashida's intuition, heightened by repeated inconsistencies and fleeting hints of duplicity, began piecing together fragments of truth. Yet the intricate choreography of secrecy, misdirection, and timing ensured that clarity remained just out of reach, keeping suspense at a fever pitch. Each day, each encounter, each seemingly mundane exchange contributed to a growing crescendo of tension, where friendships were tested, loyalties questioned, and emotions stretched to their limits. Social media conversations, fan theories, and online speculation functioned almost as an extension of the emotional battlefield, creating feedback loops that intensified the stakes, magnified every reaction, and transformed anticipation into a palpable, shared experience among viewers, cast members, and participants alike. Yandy and Jasmine carefully monitored this ecosystem, leveraging the amplified interest to manipulate timing, frame perceptions, and steer the narrative, their coordination achieving a level of psychological influence that left observers both captivated and unnerved. The tension manifested physically and emotionally on set, in private conversations, and across social media interactions, creating an environment of constant alertness, careful observation, and strategic engagement. Rashida, sensing the ever-tightening grip of manipulation, responded with heightened awareness, testing loyalty, reading body language, and probing for hidden intentions, even as she struggled with mounting emotional fatigue and the creeping realization that the confrontation looming on the horizon could irrevocably alter relationships she had long trusted. The meticulous, relentless orchestration of suspense, secrecy, and psychological manipulation ensured that when the ultimate moment of revelation arrived, it would be dramatic, all-consuming, and unforgettable. leaving a trail of emotional fallout that would ripple across friendships, alliances, and social networks alike. Every detail, from a fleeting glance to a carefully timed remark, contributed to the complex narrative web, heightening anticipation and intensifying the stakes in a story where no move went unnoticed, no reaction was irrelevant, and every element served the larger design of suspense and dramatic payoff. Yandy and Jasmine's control over the unfolding events was nearly absolute. Their strategic foresight, attention to detail, and psychological acumen allowing them to manipulate perceptions, steer narratives, and orchestrate suspense with precision, ensuring that the culmination of their plans would achieve maximum impact on both the cast and the viewing audience. Rashida, increasingly aware of the shifting landscape of loyalty, deception, and emotional manipulation, grappled with a mixture of anger, disbelief, and cautious strategy, preparing mentally for the inevitable confrontation while attempting to protect herself from emotional devastation. The emotional and psychological intensity reached a fever pitch, with every interaction, observation, and speculation contributing to a complex ecosystem of suspense, betrayal, and anticipation, a carefully constructed crescendo that would define the coming confrontation and its lasting impact. And as the narrative moved inexorably toward its climax, every participant, every fan, and every observer was pulled deeper into the drama, held captive by the intricate, unrelenting tension, the pervasive uncertainty, and the explosive potential of revelations that promised to shake relationships, loyalties, and perceptions to their core, leaving a permanent mark on the love and hip-hop universe. A saga defined by ambition, manipulation, secrecy, and the raw power of carefully orchestrated emotional upheaval. The tension that had been meticulously cultivated by Yandy and Jasmine now surged to an almost unbearable intensity. Every encounter, every glance, every word dripping with the weight of anticipation and concealed motives, creating a climate where nothing was truly ordinary, and every interaction carried the potential to ignite chaos. On set, the energy was electric and taut. Each cast member acutely aware of undercurrents that had grown stronger, subtler, and more pervasive, yet still impossible to fully articulate or confront. Rashida, despite her careful composure, felt the invisible pressures pressing against her, her intuition screaming that everything she had assumed about trust, loyalty, and friendship was being questioned in ways she could scarcely define. Yandy moved like a master tactician, orchestrating moments with precision, carefully timing gestures, comments, and appearances to guide perception and provoke curiosity, all while maintaining an appearance of innocence that belied the depth of her planning. Jasmine mirrored this with calculated subtlety, planting ideas in conversations, steering perceptions, and creating small fractures in relationships that seemed innocuous but were designed to widen into dramatic revelations over time. Every interaction became a chess move, a test of patience, loyalty, and perception, with Rashida responding instinctively, probing for inconsistencies, analyzing glances, and mentally cataloging every anomaly that might indicate hidden agendas. Private conversations became arenas of strategic observation, where alliances were evaluated, loyalties tested, and emotional triggers subtly manipulated, the psychological intensity building to levels that strained both nerves and emotions. Fans, online and in the digital ecosystem surrounding the love and hip-hop universe, became unwilling participants in this drama, dissecting every post, every subtle reaction, every hint of tension, their speculation feeding back into the unfolding events and amplifying the stakes in ways that were impossible to ignore. The social media sphere became a parallel stage, where each cryptic comment, fleeting smile, and carefully curated post was scrutinized for hidden meaning, propelling narratives, and shaping the perceptions of both cast and audience, creating a feedback loop that heightened suspense and ensured the drama remained at fever pitch. Yandy and Jasmine's meticulous control extended across both private and public domains, manipulating not only interpersonal dynamics but also audience perception, crafting an environment in which tension, curiosity, and anticipation interwove seamlessly, leaving Rashida and everyone else constantly second-guessing motives, intentions, and alliances. Each encounter, each subtle interaction, and each calculated observation added a new layer to the intricate web of suspense, gradually escalating emotional stakes, deepening conflicts, and creating a sense of inevitability that the eventual confrontation would be explosive, transformative, and unforgettable. Rashida's growing awareness, combined with the calculated manipulations of Yandy and Jasmine, created a dynamic where every decision, every expression, and every carefully measured silence became charged with consequence. heightening the tension and ensuring that no moment was without significance. The private conversations among cast members grew more guarded, their words weighted with implications, their expressions loaded with double meaning, and their loyalties increasingly difficult to discern. As the invisible presence of orchestration by Yandy and Jasmine shaped the psychological landscape in subtle yet unmistakable ways. Meanwhile, fans dissected and debated every detail, generating complex theories, predicting confrontations, and speculating about betrayals, alliances, and emotional outcomes. Their digital chatter feeding into the atmosphere of suspense and increasing the psychological stakes for those involved. The interplay of secrecy, manipulation, and observation became almost a performance art, with Yandy and Jasmine as directors, Rashida as the increasingly aware yet unsuspecting participant, and the cast and audience as both observers and actors within a narrative carefully structured to maximize tension, drama, and emotional impact. Every subtle gesture, carefully timed expression, and strategically delivered comment contributed to an ever-expanding web of anticipation, creating an environment in which trust was scarce, loyalty was tested, and the smallest perceived misstep could trigger cascades of revelation, conflict, and emotional upheaval. As Yandy and Jasmine continued to refine their strategy, they adjusted for emerging patterns, reactions, and behaviors, ensuring that each interaction, whether public or private, contributed to the crescendo of suspense that was steadily approaching its peak. Rashida, navigating the maze of secrecy and subtle manipulation, found herself balancing caution with instinct, probing for evidence, seeking consistency, and reading between the lines, all while managing the emotional weight of suspicion and uncertainty that had now become a constant companion. The psychological intensity on set reached new heights, as the interplay of trust, doubt, ambition, and perception created a landscape of near-constant tension. Each encounter a potential spark for drama, and each interaction a carefully calibrated step in the unfolding narrative. Yandy and Jasmine's ability to control this environment with precision ensured that the emotional arcs of everyone involved were manipulated subtly yet powerfully, shaping reactions, influencing perceptions, and orchestrating suspense that would make the eventual reveal not just dramatic but unforgettable. Social media amplified these dynamics, with fans contributing to the emotional tension by dissecting behaviors, interpreting gestures, and speculating on motives. Their collective attention acting as both fuel and lens, magnifying every nuance and raising the stakes beyond what any single interaction could achieve in isolation. Rashida's internal struggle intensified, balancing observation with emotion, suspicion with caution, and anticipation with restraint, knowing that a misstep could not only reveal her awareness too soon but also escalate conflict in unpredictable ways. Yandy and Jasmine's orchestration created a domino effect, where subtle manipulations in conversation, expression, and social media posts reinforced the suspense, elevated anticipation, and ensured that every relationship, every perception, and every alliance would be irrevocably tested. The psychological tension reached a point where ordinary interactions became laden with meaning. Every gesture became a test, and every statement carried the weight of potential revelation, turning every conversation, every glance, and every social interaction into a strategic move in a high-stakes game of emotional chess. Private meetings, discreet messages, and controlled encounters orchestrated by Yandy and Jasmine carefully maintained suspense, provoked speculation, and manipulated perception, creating a rhythm of anticipation that kept Rashida and everyone else perpetually off balance. Fans, fully immersed in the unfolding drama, amplified the intensity by constructing intricate theories, predicting confrontations, and speculating on emotional fallout, their engagement increasing the reach and impact of every subtle move and calculated reveal. The interplay of observation, manipulation, and anticipation became almost omnipresent, saturating private spaces, public interactions, and digital discussions alike, creating a unified atmosphere of suspense, uncertainty, and emotional charge that elevated the drama to unprecedented levels. Yandy and Jasmine's strategy was flawless in its precision, maintaining control over narrative, perception, and psychological influence, ensuring that when the ultimate revelation came, it would strike with maximum emotional force, upend relationships, and leave a permanent mark on the love and hip-hop universe. Rashida, sensing the inevitability of confrontation, found her instincts and analytical skills pushed to their limits, attempting to navigate the labyrinth of secrecy, subtlety, and deception while preparing for the emotional consequences of what she now understood to be an elaborate orchestration designed to destabilize her world. Every encounter, every interaction, every fleeting expression contributed to a crescendo of tension that enveloped the cast, fans, and participants alike, creating an environment in which anticipation, fear, curiosity, and speculation intertwined to produce a narrative of extraordinary complexity, suspense, and emotional intensity. The psychological landscape shaped by Yandy and Jasmine was one of continuous suspense, where manipulation and perception intertwined seamlessly. Trust was tenuous, and every moment held the potential for revelation, confrontation, and dramatic upheaval, ensuring that the unfolding story would captivate, shock, and resonate with anyone who bore witness to it, leaving no relationship untouched, no loyalty unquestioned, and no emotional response unprovoked. The careful orchestration of timing, interaction, and social cues ensured that the final moments of exposure would arrive with dramatic inevitability, the weight of anticipation intensifying with each day, each encounter, and each social media speculation until the climactic moment when truth, secrecy, and emotion collided in a spectacle of revelation, confrontation, and irreversible consequence, solidifying the saga as one of the most intense, manipulative, and unforgettable narratives within the love and hip-hop universe. A story where the emotional stakes, psychological strategy, and dramatic tension were unmatched, leaving fans, cast, and participants alike captivated, riveted, and emotionally entangled in a web of betrayal, suspense, and revelation, whose impact would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. The atmosphere had reached a level of intensity that seemed almost tangible, a pressure that pressed down on everyone involved, bending perceptions, twisting loyalties, and magnifying even the smallest gestures into acts of monumental consequence. Yandy and Jasmine, having meticulously constructed every step of this elaborate dance of deception and anticipation, now moved with an almost surgical precision, knowing exactly how to manipulate not only the emotional landscape of Rashida but also the perceptions of every cast member, every friend, and even the viewers watching from the edges of this storm. Each word spoken in casual conversation, each fleeting glance exchanged across the room, each half-smile or slight hesitation was intentionally layered with subtext, designed to provoke doubt, curiosity, and, most importantly, to control the narrative that had been quietly unfolding in the background. Rashida, despite her resilience and instinctive awareness, found herself increasingly drawn into the gravity of the situation, sensing the fractures beneath the smiles, the hidden motives lurking behind seemingly innocent statements, and the subtle manipulations orchestrated with relentless intent. The tension extended far beyond what could be seen on camera or captured in social media posts. It lived in the pauses, the small inflections in voice, the way a hand lingered on a shoulder just a moment too long, or how someone's eyes shifted ever so slightly during a conversation. Fans, ever vigilant and hyperanalyzing, dissected every post, every story, every digital footprint with an intensity that rivaled the actors themselves, creating layers of speculation, gossip, and theory crafting that further fueled the anticipation of what was destined to be an explosive revelation. Yandy and Jasmine thrived in this heightened environment, feeding off the energy of suspense, guiding interactions with an almost imperceptible hand, and ensuring that every subtle move contributed to the ultimate crescendo of drama that loomed ever closer. Cast members, even those only tangentially involved, began to feel the ripple effects of the intricate web of secrecy, manipulation, and strategy, their own emotions caught in the crossfire as loyalties were questioned and alliances tested without their conscious awareness. Private conversations became arenas of psychological warfare, where unspoken words, veiled implications, and carefully timed revelations created a tapestry of tension so thick that it seemed to warp reality itself, leaving everyone unsure of what was genuine and what was part of the grand design. Rashida's internal battle grew more complex with each passing moment. She oscillated between instinctual suspicion and the desire to maintain composure, her mind dissecting every interaction, testing every theory, and scanning for inconsistencies that might hint at the truth behind the web of deceit that surrounded her. Every gesture, every pause, every word, intentional or not, was magnified under the microscope of heightened emotional awareness, creating an environment where the line between reality and perception blurred, and where strategic manipulation became indistinguishable from genuine emotion. Social media acted as an extension of this tension. Fans, relentless speculation, commentary, and engagement, creating a virtual echo chamber that intensified the stakes, spread the narrative beyond physical confines, and added a layer of collective suspense that seemed to pulse alongside the unfolding events. Yandy and Jasmine's mastery of timing and psychological nuance ensured that every post, every encounter, and every interaction was a carefully calibrated instrument in an orchestral performance of intrigue, betrayal, and suspense, each note building upon the last to create a crescendo that could not be ignored. Rashida, navigating this intricate maze of manipulation, struggled to maintain equilibrium, reading body language, analyzing tone, and mentally rehearsing responses to what she suspected, knowing that any miscalculation could have profound emotional repercussions. The tension infiltrated every facet of daily life, turning casual exchanges into tests of perception, transforming minor misunderstandings into opportunities for revelation, and making every environment from private rooms to public spaces to the digital realm a stage for the psychological drama that had been meticulously set in motion. Friends and allies became unintentional pawns in the carefully plotted narrative, their reactions manipulated subtly, their trust and suspicions tested, as Yandy and Jasmine ensured that each emotional response fed into the growing crescendo of anticipation. The pace of the unfolding story accelerated as small events compounded, miscommunications layered upon misunderstandings, and subtle provocations triggered cascades of emotional response, creating a dynamic in which suspense became almost a tangible entity pressing upon everyone involved. Every moment, no matter how seemingly insignificant, contributed to an escalating drama where consequences, revelations, and confrontations were inevitable, their timing carefully engineered to achieve maximum emotional impact. The web of secrecy extended into the minutiae of daily life, a cryptic message left unread, a delayed response to a question, the strategic positioning of individuals in public or social settings, all served to reinforce suspense, cultivate doubt, and maintain the delicate balance of perception and reality that Yandy and Jasmine had spent weeks carefully calibrating. Fans followed, analyzed, and speculated with a fervor that mirrored the intensity of the unfolding drama itself, creating a communal anticipation that heightened every moment, and transformed the narrative into a living, breathing entity that extended beyond the actors into a participatory, emotionally charged ecosystem. Rashida's emotional resilience was tested continuously, as she navigated the shifting sands of trust, deception, and expectation, struggling to anticipate the next move in a game whose rules were constantly evolving and whose stakes extended far beyond personal relationships to encompass reputation, loyalty, and public perception. The delicate orchestration of psychological pressure and strategic revelation reached a point where every glance, every interaction, and every word could trigger a cascade of responses, making the environment intensely charged and unpredictably explosive. Yandy and Jasmine's careful manipulation ensured that this crescendo of suspense would inevitably lead to a confrontation of monumental intensity, where secrets would be exposed, loyalties tested, and emotional boundaries stretched to their limits, leaving everyone involved forever changed. The narrative had expanded beyond the personal sphere into a larger social phenomenon, where fans, cast members, and casual observers alike were drawn into a web of speculation, emotional investment, and anticipation that elevated the stakes far beyond what any one participant could have imagined. Every subtle exchange, every intentional pause, every calculated move, and every hidden implication contributed to the sense that a climactic moment was rapidly approaching, a point at which accumulated tension, betrayal, and strategic orchestration would converge in a spectacle of revelation, confrontation, and irrevocable consequence. Rashida's struggle intensified as she attempted to parse fact from manipulation, sincerity from deception, instinct from orchestration, knowing that the approaching reveal would redefine not only her understanding of relationships but also the emotional and social landscape of everyone around her. The intricate, almost invisible network of cues, signals, and manipulations orchestrated by Yandy and Jasmine ensured that the unfolding events remained unpredictable, suspenseful, and emotionally charged, sustaining a level of tension that left everyone on edge and every observer fully captivated. The story, now an elaborate tapestry of anticipation, strategy, and psychological nuance, continued to expand and intensify, pulling Rashida, cast members, and fans alike deeper into its layers, making each subsequent interaction a pivotal moment in a narrative defined by secrecy, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of dramatic climax. The emotional stakes, constantly amplified by observation, speculation, and subtle manipulation, created an environment where the lines between truth, perception, and strategy blurred, and where the inevitable confrontation promised to deliver maximum impact, irrevocably altering relationships, loyalties, and the very dynamics of trust within the love and hip-hop universe. Yandy and Jasmine, fully aware of the magnitude of their orchestration, continued to execute their plan with precision, timing every move to maintain suspense, provoke curiosity, and guide the unfolding drama toward a point of explosive revelation that would captivate audiences and leave lasting consequences for all involved, ensuring that the intricate web of secrecy, manipulation, and emotional intensity they had constructed would reach its ultimate, unforgettable apex. The tension that had been steadily building between Jasmine and Rashida now reached an almost unbearable intensity, the kind of pressure that seemed to warp reality itself, turning ordinary interactions into charged encounters brimming with subtext, anticipation, and hidden motives. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged, every hesitation in a response carried layers of meaning that could shift alliances, ignite suspicions, and create emotional ripples that spread far beyond the immediate moment. Yandy, with her meticulous attention to timing, expression, and perception, orchestrated each move like a skilled conductor, ensuring that the drama unfolded with maximum suspense. Every carefully calculated action, nudging Rashida and others toward uncertainty and emotional vulnerability. Jasmine, equally adept, complemented Yandy's maneuvers, planting subtle suggestions, shaping narratives, and influencing reactions with precision, ensuring that every interaction reinforced the tension and uncertainty that now defined the environment. Rashida, despite her experience and instincts, found herself drawn into a web of suspicion, constantly analyzing behaviors, rereading conversations in her mind, and trying to detect inconsistencies that might reveal the truth, all while maintaining an outward composure that concealed the storm of emotions building inside her. Cast members and friends, observing the subtle shifts, began second-guessing loyalties, questioning motives, and adjusting their own behaviors. As the invisible yet powerful influence of Yandy and Jasmine's orchestration reshaped social dynamics in subtle but undeniable ways, the atmosphere on set and in private spaces became electric, charged with anticipation, paranoia, and the unspoken understanding that something monumental was imminent. Fans online, following every post, story, and clip with obsessive scrutiny, became unwilling participants in the drama, generating theories, dissecting behaviors, and amplifying every subtle cue into narratives that added further pressure to the unfolding situation. Each post, each interaction, each fleeting smile or careful pause was dissected for hidden meaning, every minor detail magnified, creating a feedback loop in which perception influenced reality, and speculation fueled tension. Private conversations became intricate games of psychological strategy, where trust was tested, loyalty measured, and subtle provocations introduced to elicit reactions that could be interpreted, amplified, and later used to guide the drama toward its peak. Rashida's mind, constantly analyzing, scanning, and interpreting, became a battleground of emotions, instinct, and rational thought. Each fragment of information scrutinized for significance, each gesture parsed for intent, each inconsistency catalogued as potential evidence of betrayal. The social and emotional stakes escalated as even casual interactions became loaded with meaning, and every participant, whether consciously aware or not, was drawn into the carefully orchestrated rhythm of tension, suspense, and anticipation that Yandy and Jasmine had constructed with such precision. As days passed, small acts compounded, subtle manipulations layered upon minor inconsistencies, and seemingly innocuous remarks triggered waves of speculation and suspicion, steadily ratcheting up the intensity of the psychological environment. The pressure became almost physical, an omnipresent weight that influenced behavior, perception, and emotional responses, ensuring that no moment was free from the influence of the underlying strategy driving the narrative forward. Fans, cast members, and even peripheral participants in the unfolding drama became enmeshed in a web where observation, interpretation, and reaction reinforced the tension, creating an ecosystem in which suspense, manipulation, and psychological nuance governed every interaction. Yandy and Jasmine's control extended across public, private, and digital realms, their orchestration ensuring that each move maintained momentum, manipulated perception, and heightened anticipation. Rashida, increasingly aware that the world around her was being carefully guided, struggled to maintain balance, weighing instinct against observation, testing loyalty, and anticipating the inevitable confrontation that loomed like a storm on the horizon. Every detail, from a subtle glance to a calculated delay in response, became a tool to manipulate perception, provoke curiosity, and cultivate uncertainty. And Yandy and Jasmine used each with unerring precision. Conversations became arenas of subtle power dynamics. Alliances were tested with small provocations, and every social exchange, whether casual or structured, was carefully measured to reinforce the tension and anticipation. The digital landscape amplified these effects, with fans analyzing every moment, interpreting cues, and speculating on motives, creating a parallel narrative that reinforced the drama and heightened emotional stakes. Rashida's emotional resilience was continuously tested, her intuition sharpening as she navigated a maze of trust, suspicion, and psychological strategy, trying to discern what was authentic and what was orchestrated. Yandy and Jasmine's meticulous planning ensured that the suspense was sustained, the manipulations layered, and the eventual revelation poised to achieve maximum impact. A climax in which secrets, suspicions, and emotions would collide in a dramatic spectacle that would redefine relationships and alter perceptions permanently. Each day, each interaction, each subtle cue contributed to the building crescendo, the psychological pressure intensifying with every observed inconsistency, every whispered comment, every strategically withheld truth. The narrative extended beyond immediate participants, influencing friends, family, and audiences, drawing all into a network of speculation, anticipation, and engagement that magnified the tension and ensured that the drama would be experienced collectively, emotionally, and psychologically at an unprecedented scale. The orchestration of events, from casual remarks to strategically staged encounters, maintained suspense, provoked reactions, and ensured that when the final confrontation arrived, it would not only resolve the mystery but leave a lasting imprint on everyone involved, transforming perceptions, relationships, and emotional landscapes irreversibly. The intricate interplay of observation, manipulation, and timing elevated the drama to a level where every glance, every hesitation, and every interaction carried weight, each contributing to a meticulously engineered crescendo of suspense, anticipation, and revelation that no participant could ignore. Yandy and Jasmine, in perfect synchrony, navigated the emotional terrain with surgical precision, crafting an environment where the stakes, both perceived and real, were magnified, ensuring that Rashida and all surrounding parties remained on edge, fully immersed in the psychological complexity and dramatic potential of the unfolding narrative. The tension reached a point where even the smallest action, an offhand remark, a fleeting expression, a carefully curated social media post could trigger cascading consequences, each amplifying suspicion, anticipation, and emotional investment. Rashida, constantly interpreting, analyzing, and recalibrating, felt the weight of every observation, every interaction, and every implication, the intensity of anticipation growing with each passing moment as the story edged ever closer to its explosive climax. Fans online continued to dissect, debate, and speculate, their collective engagement feeding the narrative, reinforcing tension, and making every interaction more consequential than it had been moments before. Private conversations, strategic encounters, and orchestrated moments of suspense ensured that the drama unfolded with both unpredictability and precision, the psychological pressure on all participants intensifying as the web of manipulation, secrecy, and expectation reached critical mass. Rashida's emotional landscape became a mirror of the calculated chaos orchestrated by Yandy and Jasmine, the interplay of observation, suspicion, and anticipation shaping her every thought and reaction, leaving her both aware of the manipulation and yet unable to fully anticipate the timing, nature, or scope of the ultimate revelation. The crescendo built relentlessly, every subtle cue, interaction, and observation carefully contributing to a climax designed to maximize drama, impact, and emotional consequence, leaving no relationship untouched, no perception unquestioned, and no heart unshaken. Every element's spoken word, unspoken gesture, social media interaction, and private reflection was part of a complex, interwoven strategy that elevated the stakes, amplified tension, and ensured that when the inevitable confrontation arrived, it would resonate with explosive emotional intensity, capturing the attention of fans, participants, and observers alike, and leaving a legacy of suspense, betrayal, and revelation that would echo long after the cameras stopped rolling. The meticulous orchestration of anticipation, suspicion, and revelation ensured that every participant, every observer, and every fan was engaged in a narrative of high psychological stakes, emotional complexity, and relentless suspense. A drama where every moment mattered, every action carried consequence, and the eventual collision of truth, emotion, and exposure would redefine the landscape of relationships, perception, and loyalty within the love and hip-hop universe. The tension that had been simmering for weeks now erupted into a near-constant undercurrent, infecting every interaction, every glance, and every word exchanged among Yandy, Jasmine, Rashida, and the rest of the cast, creating an environment where trust was fragile, loyalty was questioned at every turn, and even casual conversations carried the weight of potential revelation. Yandy, with her keen sense of timing and strategic foresight, continued to manipulate events with precision, orchestrating moments so carefully that each interaction seemed natural, yet was charged with hidden intent, designed to heighten suspense, provoke doubt, and maintain her control over the narrative. Jasmine complemented this strategy perfectly, subtly planting suggestions, reinforcing tensions, and guiding perceptions, ensuring that Rashida and anyone aligned with her remained off balance, unable to discern truth from orchestrated illusion. Rashida, increasingly aware that the equilibrium around her was shifting, tried to maintain her composure, analyzing every gesture, scrutinizing every tone, and re-examining past interactions for inconsistencies that might indicate deception, while simultaneously guarding against overreaction that could be used against her in the escalating drama. The cast, sensing the rising tension, reacted in ways that further fueled the complexity of the situation. Whispers, furtive glances, and strategic interventions began to form a network of influence that both complicated alliances and magnified uncertainties. The pressure intensified in private moments as well, where the unspoken stakes became almost unbearable. Every pause, hesitation, or offhand comment interpreted as a potential clue, a veiled threat, or a subtle provocation. Fans online, engaging in obsessive scrutiny of social media, live appearances, and posted clips, became active participants in the unfolding drama, their speculations, theories, and interpretations magnifying suspense, adding layers of pressure, and creating a virtual feedback loop that amplified emotional stakes far beyond the physical set. The digital realm acted as both amplifier and battleground, with every cryptic post, fleeting story, and ambiguous comment dissected, shared, and debated, creating waves of anticipation that pressed back onto the cast and manipulated the timing and impact of each interaction. Yandy and Jasmine's meticulous attention to psychological nuance, timing, and public perception ensured that every gesture, word, and silence contributed to the larger narrative, building a crescendo of tension that constantly kept Rashida guessing, second-guessing and strategizing her next move. Private encounters were layered with meaning, every hand placed, every smile offered, and every shift in posture laden with potential interpretation, transforming ordinary moments into calculated instruments of suspense, where the unspoken became as powerful as the spoken. Rashida's mind became a battleground of rational analysis and emotional instinct, as she navigated an intricate maze of loyalty, suspicion, and manipulation, striving to anticipate motives, detect deception, and maintain control over her own emotional responses, even as the walls of uncertainty pressed in from all sides. Each day brought new subtleties, small inconsistencies, or carefully constructed provocations designed to test patience, loyalty, and judgment, with Yandy and Jasmine orchestrating each so that the tension escalated gradually, ensuring the eventual moment of revelation would hit with maximum impact. The social dynamics extended beyond immediate interactions, influencing secondary relationships, peripheral observers, and the broader fan community, each contributing to the complex ecosystem of speculation, perception, and emotional investment that sustained the drama. Interpersonal exchanges became exercises in psychological strategy, with loyalty assessed, reactions monitored, and subtle manipulations employed to control outcomes without overt confrontation, turning the cast's daily routines into a high-stakes game of anticipation, deception, and influence. Fans, analyzing every fragment of communication and interaction, served to amplify the tension, creating a sense of collective scrutiny that transformed suspense into a shared, almost tangible experience, where anticipation and speculation fed back into the emotional and strategic decisions of the cast themselves. Rashida, keenly aware of the stakes but still lacking full clarity, responded with a combination of observation, analysis, and instinct, attempting to navigate the labyrinthine interplay of manipulation and loyalty, testing the limits of her understanding and preparing for the inevitable confrontation that she knew was approaching. Every interaction, every glance, and every unspoken implication now carried the weight of consequence, amplifying emotional stakes and shaping behavior, perception, and decision-making in ways that were subtle yet deeply influential. Yandy and Jasmine's orchestration ensured that the tension remained constant, the manipulations layered, and the narrative trajectory meticulously controlled, guiding the story toward a climactic convergence where secrets, suspicions, and emotions would collide explosively. The environment became almost theatrical in its intensity, each cast member a performer and a participant, each fan a witness and a co-conspirator in a drama that was as much about perception as it was about action, where every word, gesture, and post contributed to an evolving tableau of suspense, intrigue, and psychological complexity. Rashida's emotional awareness heightened with every passing day, as she began to detect patterns, inconsistencies, and subtle manipulations that confirmed her suspicions while simultaneously raising new questions, creating a cycle of anticipation and vigilance that consumed her attention and energy. The stakes extended into all areas of interaction, both on and off camera, as the careful orchestration of timing, impression, and observation dictated the flow of information, the perceived reality of events, and the emotional climate for everyone involved. Private discussions, strategically staged encounters, and seemingly spontaneous moments of tension all served to reinforce the suspense, shaping perceptions and reactions with precision while maintaining the illusion of spontaneity and authenticity. Fans, social media followers, and peripheral participants collectively magnified the drama, engaging in continuous analysis, speculation, and debate, their emotional investment further intensifying the perceived stakes and transforming the unfolding events into a participatory spectacle where suspense and anticipation became shared experiences. The interplay between observed behaviors, hidden motives, and manipulated perceptions created a continuous cycle of anticipation, misinterpretation, and emotional escalation, with Rashida constantly evaluating, strategizing, and bracing for the moments when hidden truths would inevitably surface. Yandy and Jasmine's coordination ensured that each development reinforced tension, maintained uncertainty, and guided the story toward a crescendo of revelation that would be impossible to ignore, transforming minor inconsistencies into pivotal moments of suspense and heightening emotional intensity with each passing interaction. The intricate layering of deception, manipulation, and psychological influence created an environment in which the ordinary became extraordinary. Casual interactions were laden with potential meaning, and the boundaries between perception and reality blurred to the point where every participant was simultaneously actor, observer, and subject. Rashida's growing awareness, combined with the relentless strategic orchestration of Yandy and Jasmine, meant that every decision, every reaction, and every subtle expression carried consequences far beyond the immediate moment, reinforcing the narrative of tension, suspense, and psychological complexity that had been meticulously constructed. The emotional landscape was saturated with anticipation, suspicion, and intrigue, each moment contributing to a crescendo that promised to deliver a revelation of seismic impact, a moment where accumulated manipulations, concealed truths, and heightened emotional stakes would collide in a spectacle of drama that would forever alter relationships, perceptions, and loyalties within the love and hip-hop universe. The narrative extended outward, influencing not only direct participants but also fans, observers, and secondary characters, creating a network of engagement, speculation, and emotional investment that amplified every nuance, subtlety, and strategic move, ensuring that suspense and anticipation were maintained across all spheres of influence. Every glance, gesture, conversation, and interaction became a vector of psychological influence, each contributing to the gradual escalation of tension, uncertainty, and emotional charge that defined the environment, transforming ordinary moments into critical elements of a complex, orchestrated drama. Yandy and Jasmine maintained absolute control over the rhythm of suspense, strategically introducing provocations, delaying revelations, and manipulating perceptions to sustain a constant sense of uncertainty, ensuring that when the inevitable confrontation arrived, it would achieve maximum dramatic impact. Rashida's cognitive and emotional faculties were stretched to their limits, balancing instinct, observation, and rational analysis as she navigated a constantly shifting landscape of hidden motives, subtle manipulations, and intricate social dynamics. Fully aware that any misstep could trigger cascades of unintended consequences, the entire environment, from private interactions to public exchanges to social media dynamics, became a stage where suspense, strategy, and psychological nuance intertwined seamlessly, creating a continuous feedback loop of observation, reaction, and anticipation that elevated the drama to unprecedented levels of intensity. Every interaction, every implied accusation, and every carefully measured silence contributed to the construction of a climactic moment that promised to redefine relationships, expose hidden truths, and leave lasting emotional consequences for everyone involved. Yandy and Jasmine's precision in orchestrating this environment ensured that suspense, anticipation, and emotional investment remained at peak levels, transforming ordinary days into a prolonged build-up toward a revelation that would captivate, shock, and resonate across both the cast and the audience. Rashida, navigating this complex, high-stakes psychological terrain, continuously reassessed her environment, scrutinized motives, and prepared mentally and emotionally for the explosive confrontation that loomed on the horizon, knowing that the culmination of this carefully constructed drama would be impossible to ignore, unforgettable in impact, and transformative in its consequences. The entire web of glances, conversations, social media cues, and orchestrated provocations coalesced into a singular, unrelenting pressure cooker of suspense and emotion, ensuring that the eventual revelation would arrive with unparalleled intensity, leaving an indelible mark on relationships, perceptions, and the collective consciousness of fans and participants alike. Every participant, from those directly involved to those observing from a distance, was drawn into the gravity of the narrative, engaged in a complex interplay of observation, speculation, and emotional investment that ensured the unfolding drama would not only entertain but fundamentally alter the emotional and social landscape of everyone connected to it, culminating in a moment of truth, revelation, and consequence that could not be ignored and would reverberate long after the immediate events had passed. The storm of tension that had been carefully cultivated now reached an almost palpable density, saturating every interaction, every glance, and every exchange between Yandy, Jasmine, Rashida, and the rest of the cast, creating a charged environment where perception and reality intertwined so seamlessly that it was impossible to separate genuine emotion from orchestrated manipulation. Yandy's mastery of timing and psychological nuance allowed her to control the SHE rhythm of interactions with near-perfect precision, each word chosen, each pause measured, each gesture calculated to provoke subtle shifts in emotion, influence perception, and maintain suspense at a peak level. Jasmine, equally skilled, played a complementary role, reinforcing Yandy's manipulations with carefully timed interventions, cryptic comments, and strategic positioning, ensuring that Rashida remained off balance, constantly second-guessing herself and those around her, unable to anticipate the full scope of the orchestrated drama. Rashida, increasingly aware of the manipulations swirling around her, found herself navigating a labyrinth of loyalty, suspicion, and emotional complexity, mentally dissecting conversations, replaying encounters, and analyzing micro-expressions for hidden intent while maintaining an outward calm that masked the intensity of her inner struggle. The subtle manipulations extended to every layer of social interaction, with friends, allies, and peripheral cast members drawn into the web, often unknowingly. Their reactions, monitored, interpreted, and leveraged to sustain the pressure and heighten suspense. Casual remarks became loaded with meaning, fleeting gestures became instruments of intrigue, and ordinary interactions were transformed into high-stakes exercises in perception and influence. Fans, voraciously following every post, clip, and story, became unwilling participants in this unfolding drama, their speculation, debate, and analysis magnifying every nuance and escalating the emotional stakes beyond the immediate participants. Social media acted as both amplifier and stage. Every cryptic comment, subtle smile, or delayed response, dissected, theorized about, and shared, reinforcing the suspense and creating a collective anticipation that fed back into the cast's awareness, intensifying emotional tension and influencing subsequent behavior. Private moments were equally fraught, as unspoken stakes carried immense weight, and every hesitation, pause, or subtle facial expression became fodder for interpretation, often with consequences that echoed across public and digital spaces. Rashida's cognitive and emotional resources were taxed to the limit as she attempted to navigate this web, balancing instinct, rational analysis, and perception management in a constantly shifting environment where trust was fragile, deception pervasive, and every decision potentially consequential. Yandy and Jasmine's orchestration ensured that the environment remained perpetually tense, the manipulations layered and complex, and the eventual reveal poised to deliver maximum emotional impact. Every minor inconsistency, ambiguous gesture, or carefully planted suggestion was magnified into a significant plot point, each contributing to a crescendo of suspense that transformed ordinary social dynamics into a high-stakes psychological chess game. The interplay of observation, interpretation, and strategic influence created a feedback loop in which anticipation, speculation, and emotional intensity fed one another, shaping both actions and perceptions in a constantly evolving narrative ecosystem. Cast members, caught in the gravitational pull of this drama, experienced heightened vigilance, shifting alliances, and the constant need to assess motives, detect manipulation, and protect their own emotional stakes, further intensifying the environment of uncertainty and suspense. Each day, each interaction, and each social exchange became a microcosm of strategy and emotion, where the line between intentional manipulation and genuine expression blurred, making every encounter a test of perception, patience, and resilience. Yandy and Jasmine, fully aware of the narrative arc they were constructing, maintained a relentless focus on controlling timing, perception, and emotional impact, ensuring that suspense remained sustained, reactions unpredictable, and anticipation continually escalating toward the climax. Rashida, oscillating between instinct and cautious engagement, found herself increasingly aware that the culmination of this meticulously orchestrated drama would bring revelations, confrontations, and consequences capable of reshaping relationships, reputations, and loyalties irreversibly. The broader fan ecosystem would redefine relationships and perceptions permanently. The narrative, now a living, breathing organism of suspense, speculation, and emotional interplay, expanded through both direct and indirect interactions, enveloping fans, peripheral cast members, and participants alike in a collective experience of anticipation, curiosity, and emotional investment. Each strategically staged conversation, every cryptic message, and every subtle gesture contributed to the continuous escalation, ensuring that the eventual confrontation would be unforgettable in impact, resonance, and consequence. Rashida's perception, intuition, and emotional management were tested continually as she navigated the shifting web of loyalties, provocations, and hidden truths, each new revelation or perceived inconsistency increasing suspense and uncertainty while sharpening her awareness and strategic thinking. The combination of private maneuvering, public observation, and fan-driven speculation created an ecosystem of pressure and anticipation in which the unfolding drama transcended the physical set, influencing behaviors, emotions, and perceptions across a wide network of participants and observers. Yandy and Jasmine's precise control over timing, narrative, and perception ensured that each development reinforced tension, sustained suspense, and intensified emotional stakes, building a narrative crescendo that promised to deliver a climactic revelation capable of shaking relationships, testing loyalties, and leaving long-lasting emotional consequences. Every glance, subtle cue, and minor provocation was instrumental, carefully designed to amplify uncertainty, manipulate perception, and escalate anticipation, creating a continuous, immersive experience of high-stakes drama that engaged participants and audience alike. Rashida's heightened awareness, analytical mindset, and emotional vigilance allowed her to navigate this labyrinth of tension, yet even she recognized the inevitability of a confrontation whose intensity, timing, and consequences were fully orchestrated by Yandy and Jasmine. The environment, saturated with suspense, subtle manipulations, and unspoken stakes, became a pressure cooker where every action mattered, every perception was scrutinized, and every decision had the potential to reshape the trajectory of relationships, alliances, and reputations. Fans, drawn into the intricate dance of speculation, anticipation, and analysis, amplified the stakes, turning every post, story, and interaction into a communal experience of suspense, uncertainty, and emotional investment that fed directly back into the drama. Yandy and Jasmine's meticulous orchestration ensured that tension remained unrelenting. Manipulations were multi-layered and anticipation continually escalated, guiding the narrative toward a climax in which secrets, betrayals, and emotional confrontations would collide in an unforgettable spectacle of intensity and consequence. Rashida, navigating this complex web of psychological strategy, observation, and emotional management, prepared for the eventual showdown, aware that every choice, every reaction, and every interpretation had the potential to shape outcomes in ways that would resonate far beyond the immediate moment, ensuring that when the final revelation occurred, it would have maximum dramatic and emotional impact on all involved. As all of this unfolds before your very eyes, one thing is undeniable: the twists, the betrayals, and the sheer intensity of this drama have left everyone, cast members, friends, and fans alike, utterly on edge. And now it's your turn to weigh in. You've seen the emotions, the suspicions, the tiny sparks that ignite massive explosions of conflict, and the way every glance, every word, and every subtle pause carries layers of meaning. And now it's impossible not to ask yourself, what would you do if you were in Rashida's shoes? Constantly calculating, constantly wondering, constantly bracing for the next move in a game where the rules are invisible. and the stakes are personal, emotional, and public all at once. The tension doesn't end here, because while we've peeled back layers of secrets, there are still so many unanswered questions. And that's what makes the story irresistible. What exactly was discussed in those secret meets between Yandy and Jasmine? Was it a betrayal in the truest sense? Or a strategic move that only they fully understood? How will Rashida respond when the full truth emerges? And how will the relationships, once thought unshakable, transform under the weight of revelation and mistrust? Every fan, every observer, and every viewer now has the opportunity to become part of this conversation, to analyze the motives, weigh the evidence, and even predict the next turn of events. Because in a story this layered, your perspective matters, and your voice adds to the narrative that continues to unfold. As you sit there, watching, thinking, and reacting, consider the human element in all of this, the emotions that run raw, the insecurities that bubble up, the pride that is wounded, and the connections that are tested, because this is more than just a reality TV drama. It's a study of relationships, trust, perception, and the very way we navigate conflict in our lives, magnified for everyone to see. Every comment you leave, every theory you post, and every reaction you share contributes to the living, breathing ecosystem of discussion that surrounds this story. And your participation isn't just encouraged, it's part of the experience, part of the collective energy that fuels the suspense and ensures that the drama continues to captivate. So, as you reflect on what you've just witnessed, think about the alliances, the missteps, the hidden intentions, and the moments of pure emotional vulnerability, because these are the threads that will weave together the next chapter of the saga, and your insight could illuminate patterns, reveal truths, or even influence how others perceive the unfolding narrative. Share your thoughts. Who do you think has the upper hand in this battle of strategy and emotion? Who do you trust? Who do you doubt? And who do you believe might have a hidden agenda that hasn't yet been exposed? Your opinions are the pulse of this community, and they matter just as much as every carefully orchestrated move we've seen on screen. As you engage, you also become part of the suspense, part of the ripple effect that turns private moments into public spectacle. And every theory you propose adds weight to the conversation, making it richer, more compelling, and more intense. Now is the perfect moment to dive into discussions, to debate motives, to question loyalties, and to speculate on the inevitable confrontations that are surely approaching. Because this story isn't static, it evolves with every interaction, every observation, and every fan reaction. And your participation accelerates that evolution. And let's not forget the emotional stakes. Beyond the intrigue and suspense, there's a very real human drama playing out, and connecting with it, analyzing it, and empathizing with it enhances the depth of your experience, turning you from a passive viewer into an active participant in a saga that blends tension, suspense, and raw emotion in ways that few stories manage to achieve. Don't let this moment pass without making your voice heard. Your engagement helps preserve the intensity, keeps the discussion alive, and ensures that every twist and turn is met with the scrutiny, reaction, and debate it deserves. Comment below with your theories, share the video to invite others into the drama, and keep watching because this is only the beginning of what promises to be one of the most intense, emotionally charged, and unpredictable narratives you've ever experienced in the world of love and hip-hop. The suspense, the intrigue, and the heartbreak are all part of a story that is bigger than any one of us, but smaller than the collective community that now watches, reacts, and participates in shaping the conversation around it. And remember, the real drama isn't just on the screen, it's in how we interpret, analyze, and emotionally connect with each twist, betrayal, and revelation. And that's why your insight, your reaction, and your engagement are essential. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat. Because every new development adds layers to the story, deepens the emotional complexity, and heightens the suspense in ways that are impossible to ignore. Join the conversation, bring your perspective, and immerse yourself fully. Because when it comes to a story like this, every comment, every shared theory, and every interaction enriches the experience for everyone, keeping the tension alive, the speculation active, and the drama perpetually engaging. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided, but the story is far from over, and your voice can help shape how the next chapter unfolds. Engage, theorize, debate, and immerse yourself in the unfolding narrative, because the drama is real, the stakes are high, and the ultimate revelation is yet to come, and you, as a viewer and participant, are part of the unfolding journey, experiencing every twist, betrayal, and confrontation alongside Rashida, Yandy, Jasmine, and the rest of the cast in real time. And your reactions will become part of the collective memory of this story that continues to grip, shock, and captivate. Don't just watch, interact, contribute, and be part of a community that thrives on anticipation, emotion, and engagement. Because a story this explosive, this layered, and this emotionally charged is meant to be lived as much as it is viewed. And your participation ensures that the drama remains as intense, unpredictable, and compelling as it was meant to be from the very first moment it began to unfold. So dive in, express your reactions, weigh the consequences, predict the next moves, and never underestimate the power of your voice in shaping the ongoing narrative. Because in a story like this, every fan, every comment, and every shared opinion adds to the suspense, magnifies the intrigue, and ensures that the drama never loses its edge, never loses its intensity, and never stops capturing the attention of all who dare to watch, analyze, and participate. Now that you've seen the intensity, the secrets, and the betrayals unfold before your eyes, it's your turn to weigh in. Who do you think has the upper hand on D with her calculated moves? Jasmine with her subtle manipulations, or Rashida, holding on to her composure while navigating this web of deception? The stakes are higher than ever, emotions are raw, and every glance, every word, every pause carries meaning. Don't stay silent, share your thoughts in the comments, debate with other fans, and let your voice become part of the story. Hit that like button if the drama shocked you. Subscribe to make sure you never miss a twist. And turn on notifications because you know the next revelation could come at any moment. And trust us, you'll want to witness it live. This story is still unfolding, secrets are waiting to be exposed, and loyalties will be tested like never before. Your reactions, your theories, and your engagement make this more than a show. They make it a community of fans who live, breathe, and speculate alongside the cast. So dive in, express yourself, and join the conversation. Because in a drama this intense, every opinion matters, every perspective counts. And the next explosive twist could change everything. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided. But your take could shape how we all interpret what happens next. Don't wait. Comment, like, subscribe, and get ready. Because the story isn't over, and the next chapter promises even more betrayal, suspense, and shocking revelations than you ever imagined.